Good evening, everyone. This is the Ayer Conservation Commission meeting. It is Thursday, September 14th, 2023. Members in attendance this evening are Jessica Gino as member clerk. We have George Bacon as member, Mark Phillips, vice chair, myself, John Schmallenberger, as chair. Jenna Maya is not with us this evening. And as our conservation agent, we have Heather Hampson. Do we have confirmation of agenda?
Yeah, no changes.
Motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay, opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. The approval of the meeting minutes for August 24th, 2023. Any changes?
George looked like he had one. Oh. He was smiling with glee, I thought.
Got her again.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All righty. Motion to approve the meeting minutes for August 24th, 2023 as written.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. All right, this is the time in our meeting for public input. If there's anyone out there who would like to offer a comment or has a question that's not on the agenda this evening, now's the time. Okay?
Crickets.
Hearing none? Crickets. Then our first item this evening is a request for determination of applicability, Town of Ayer, Department of Public Works, off Nemco Way, installation of 3 test wells within the buffer zone. Is that you, Dan? The two of you?
Yeah.
You can join us.
Excuse me, yeah, this is Dave Harwood from Verdantis. He's our consultant working on the project.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, this project, this is basically the next step in public water supply, the next location that we're looking for. And so previous work that's been done, there's been a test well that was done out there, I think it was a couple years ago now. And it showed that the site could be viable as a public water supply. So, you know, the aquifer and the recharge may be suitable. So the next step is to go through the new well source approval process. It's the Mass DEP approval process. And that's where Dave comes in with all the engineering and the testing and the reporting to see if the site is viable. So I know Dave submitted the RDA, and in there, I believe it should have a plan of where the locations are, where we're looking. And he can talk about the potential impacts to the buffer areas that we have for the project. And yeah, Dave, I don't know if you want to mention some more details. And
you covered it pretty well. This is really the second step. No permanent facility is proposed at this time. This is all testing.
yeah,
We started with 2.5-inch test wells were installed with a small piece of equipment. The next step is to install 8-inch test wells. This is going to be a well field of 3 wells. We oftentimes do a single well. This site lends itself to a well field, so there are 3 wells 50 feet apart. The 8-inch wells require a bigger piece of equipment. So there'll have to be a little bit of earthwork on the slope there, not in the buffer zone, just to get the larger drill rig in there. These wells are relatively shallow. They're just in the overburden. They don't go into the bedrock. They drive them in, bail the sand out of them, put a little screen at the bottom. They'll put in temporary pumps powered by a generator, portable generator. I mean, it's a big generator, but it's a trailer-sized generator. And this is all regulated through DEP. We proposed this, how we're going to do it to the, and we submitted that permit application to the state. It was a while ago. We still haven't got approval yet. It takes a while. And we'll pump all 3 wells. We pump it for 10 days continuously. It's monitored. There's staff there 24 hours a day. They fuel the generator. They measure the water level in the observation wells, and in the wetlands we have all these monitoring points that we evaluate for impacts. The discharge, it goes from a hose. Sometimes they'll combine them into a single hose. Sometimes they'll have 3 hoses since it's 3 pumps. And we typically just shoot it onto a piece of plywood with hay bales around it. I think there's a figure of that.
Yep.
And we usually do that, near the edge of the wetland so that it just flows into the wetland, which is standard practice that we do other communities around here.
It looks like there's roads that you can get into that, basically into it.
Yeah, so that's the access point is through the National Grid site there, and we've been able to work with them to be able to access. It's basically through their power line access road. And so that's where, I don't know if Heather, if you remember when we came down, it's a pretty steep hill when you get down to the actual site where we'll be working. So we'll have to do a little bit of grading on that slope so that we can get the rig down.
And then the future access, if this is permitted and the water quality and quantity seems to be viable to proceed, there may be a future access that would be a little more suitable.
Yeah, so this first will, this will basically say, is this site, definitely
Yeah, I think so.
a public water supply site once we do this test work. And then from that, the next step after that would be start to develop plans for constructing on the site. And that's where we get into much more permitting.
And we would come back with a notice of intent if it gets to that
Yeah,
point.
that'd be kind of the next phase of the project.
So you say these are pretty shallow, so there's not going to be too much in the way of dirt removed.
I mean, there'll just be a little pile of dirt, gravel.
You go down 32 feet, really? 32 feet?
Yeah. That's shallow.
Hit like rock before then, or you do?
No, that's shallow, 32
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
No, I
some,
just think of my yard go down.
yeah. Like the wells at Grove Pond, I think they're 60 or 70 feet deep, and Spec Pond's similar too, so pretty deep wells there.
Depends on where you are.
Yeah.
Location,
That area. Yeah, there's
location, location.
no rock is
Yeah.
there. Definitely. So you'll be running the pumps, basically just see how much flow comes out of it is the idea? That's the whole concept here?
Yeah, and I say in the old days, pumping tests were really, all they cared about was quantity and quality.
Yeah.
Is it sustainable? And is the quality good? And that's still very important, but really now it's more about impacts. It's become the bigger focus. Are we going to, we're going to impact the surface water or habitats? And that is really where where the rubber meets the road, mostly where the work comes in. And that's all part of the state permitting process.
And you can tell the impact just from these test wells? Yeah.
That's why we do a 10-day test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you already did 2.5 inch?
Yes.
So are the final wells going to be shallow too?
Sorry, the what?
Are the final
The
wells?
final wells will be the exact same depth, yes.
Oh,
Yep. Yeah, if this is successful, the 8-inch wells, they'll pull them out and they'll put in larger diameter, maybe, if it's a well field, they may be 16 inches maybe.
How long has the 2.5-inch one been there?
I think it's been 2 years.
2 years maybe.
Yeah, not last year, the year before. I want to say is when those were done. Yeah.
And you've been pumping it or? No.
Pumped it for 4 hours. That was it.
Yeah. And took some
2 years
samples.
old.
Yeah. And so they're just there. Yeah.
I guess I just wonder about, with as wet as it is this year, you'll probably just go down 3 feet and the water will start gushing out. But, what I mean? Like what happens in a
Well, the pumping
dry
test,
season?
well, that's all part of sometimes if it's a site that DEP is concerned about, they'll mandate that it has to be tested in the fall when it's low water.
Okay.
I don't expect that. We haven't got the approval yet, but I don't
Technically it's fall
expect
now.
that. Yeah, but the way it goes, I mean, even if we get approval now, getting a contractor, it would, maybe we could do the test in the winter, which we do all the time. Doing it in the winter is not a problem. The spring can get a little wet. If we couldn't do it this winter, it would probably get into next summer or next fall. It's a long process, believe me.
So if it's all successful, what ends up happening is will you build like a spectacle pond kind of site over there?
So yeah, so then there would be a well site there, and so that would be kind of the next phase, and there'd be a well house, a small well house that would house the well and any equipment that is needed for it, and then it would pipe to the existing treatment plant. So we would have to, there'd be a lot of easements and permitting, National Grid easement, and they get the railroad there to make its way all the way to, so that'd be the big next phase.
Okay.
So first phase would be design of that, and then there would be construction of it.
But
And
even
design and
spectacle-
permitting.
Even if it needs
Spectacle margin
treatment,
of-
which we kind of expect that it probably will need treatment.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a big treatment plant there.
No, it would just be.
It'll
the
get piped
well.
to the other one.
Yeah,
Okay.
everything would get treated at the
Spectacle has the
plant.
capacity to
Yeah.
to filter and.
Yeah, and even the PFAS plant, we did leave excess room for more vessels if we need it, so, yeah.
So, yeah, the building, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but it'll be relatively small. It's just gonna be a big electrical panel, basically, for the power.
Yeah, right, just like our other well houses we have for well 2 and well 1, yep.
Any other questions?
Just side question, how are you doing on storage capacity for water that's been pumped or treated?
Oh, just in general, because we have
With
this,
the-
right now, we have the water supply issues.
That people
Yeah.
rant
so-
out on Facebook?
Yeah, it's still, no, so the problem is we just can't pump as much through our Grove Pond plant
Yeah.
as we used to. It's restrictive, the new PFAS treatment. It's really the vessels have a much
Yeah.
bigger head loss than it was expected. And so we used to get, I don't know, we could do 1,100, even more gallons per minute. And now we can, when our vessels are at their cleanest, we're maybe doing 650 gallons a minute. So it's down 43%. That's what Kimberly has gone through all the graphs and the numbers. So we're down 43% of pumping out of what used to be our best pumping plant, Grove Pond. So what we're looking at doing is putting in a clear well storage tank, and hopefully that would happen next year. And a clear well storage tank, it's basically a tank just downstream of the treatment plant, of Grove Pond plant. It'll be at the site. And it would create a hydraulic break between the pressure of the system that's coming down to the plant and the pumping through the plant. You get all that pressure that the system has to pump against. So it's got to pump through the PFAS treatment and then pump against the pressure of our system. So it create a hydraulic break there. So that would allow the system to efficiently pump back to the capacity it used to go. There'd be a clear well storage tank, and in that tank there would be pumps that pump into the system. So it'd give us a redundant storage, it would give us more storage as well in that
Yeah.
clear well storage tank. It wouldn't be a lot, but it would also solve our production problem, and we'd be able to produce what we used to out of Grove Pond. So next year, hopefully that gets, we're working on it right now, we're working on design, so hopefully we can keep pushing it and get into construction next year, and by the end of 2024 construction season,
Okay.
be in good shape again, and not have to be
Yeah.
having Devons on speed dial for emergencies if we have
Yeah.
to run low, yeah.
And then we'll be able to water all our lawns properly.
Yeah.
I missed-
Well, this year it didn't really matter. Next year we'll have the
There's
drought
no water,
again, right?
trust me.
Still water.
Oh, they are.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, McDonald's has been watering through the summer.
Are they still?
yeah.
I know there's been issues there, and we've dealt with them. All right.
Well, I haven't seen it recently, but I know like
Yeah.
a month ago. Sprinklers, it's like,
I saw them, yeah, I saw about a month ago too, yeah.
yeah.
In the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Mark?
I'm good.
Heather, do you have any thoughts?
No, I had gone out there and we walked the site, the three of us, to take a look at the location of it, and it's all grass road as it is now, so to bring everything in, we might have to do some minor, cutting of some of the brush to get the equipment in and like to grade that road, but other than that, it's all the roadway's already pretty much there all the way down, so.
Yep.
And yet, as far as like pumping the water, according to regulations, you're allowed to take roof runoff and dump it straight into the wetland. That's a pure, you can do that, so it's not a violation or anything. You have to worry about permitting. You're allowed to do that. Just water going into water.
Yep.
Water from the ground.
Water from the ground
Going-
up to the surface, back to the ground.
Yeah.
It's a water cycle.
And we did some preliminary testing when we water quality testing, and it's, there's no VOCs or anything in it. It's clean. I mean, we wouldn't proceed if it wasn't.
Anyone feel there's a need for a sidewalk?
It was the only time this year I got ticks on me was going up to that side.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, well, if we wanted to go get some ticks.
I found 3 on me when I got back to the office.
Any other discussion? Motion to issue a negative determination for the Department of Public Works off Nemco Way, installation of 3 test wells. Do we need to say anything else?
Oh, I
Is
just wanted...
there going to be any erosion controls or anything? I mean, is there anything like that going to be in place?
Hay bales around the
Hay bales,
discharge.
there was like a
Just around
dewatering,
that?
almost like a dewatering, and just
for the discharge.
as a heads up for you all, when, on the application, in case anyone read it, whatever, it said 0 Nemco Way. When I went to the assessor's map and looked at the map and parcel, map 8, parcel 16, it actually came up as 0 Littleton Road. So I have that listed on the determination that it's 0 Littleton Road, then 0 Nemco Way in parentheses, just so you know. That's what I found in the assessor's map.
So 0 Nemco.
Yeah, it's
Road,
actually it's 0 Littleton Road. The application says 0 Nemco Way, but the map and parcel is correct. So that was in the applications. It's just, it came up in it as a 0 Littleton. Whenever you have a 0, God knows what street it's going to come up as.
Right.
There's no actual address, so I just clarify that.
Good
if
to know.
anyone cares.
Okay, and that's on the,
It's on here, and I basically verified the map and parcel on the assessor's map, and yet it came as, and it is town land, so.
Well, I know, that might change my vote.
so is there a motion to approve the negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. I'll be back again.
Nice to meet you, Dave.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Take care.
I gotta say, I do lots of these, and this was one of the most pleasant ones I've done. I appreciate that.
Don't come back with dirty water.
Hey, you know what they say? Drill, baby, drill.
Anyone could just
All right.
use dry shampoo, we wouldn't have to worry about new wellheads.
Do you use dry shampoo?
Oh, gosh, no. I use bar shampoo.
Yeah. All right.
That was done.
Next item this evening is public hearing, notice of intent, DEP file number 100-0485. Do I need to say 201-205?
West Main Street.
West Main Street.
Yep. So,
Is this going to be opened and
yep,
continue?
they've requested a continuation to the September 28th meeting.
September 28th.
And just so you know, I am anticipating revised plans coming into the office either tomorrow or early next week.
Okay.
Based off the planning board meeting.
I'm guessing,
maybe,
but when I talked to Drew Garver on the phone yesterday, he said it was based on the comments from the various boards and departments, so I don't know what the changes are gonna be, but he said I'll be getting revised plans.
All right.
So that is why you recommended we not.
This is part of the, just keep continuing until the planning board has some sort of a decision, so yeah, it was part of the reason.
All right. Any discussion?
I had the email if anyone wants to read it.
I'll trust you.
Okay.
Who's the email from?
The email is from Lauren Sassgasher. I'm not good with last names. You can
Okay.
keep that if you need it.
No.
So is there a motion to continue the public hearing, notice of intent, DEP file number 100-0485, 201 to 205 West Main Street until our next meeting until the September 28th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously. Next item, proposed minor changes to wetlands bylaw for fall town meeting.
So after vigorously working on this, I've come to the decision I don't want to rush it. I don't have enough time to get it ready for fall town meeting because I would have had to have it all the minor changes done last week to publish in the paper for the public hearing next meeting, and the deadline for the town meeting warrant would be the next day. So that was a little too close for me to push it. I figured it's best to, I am going to double check with town council in regards to a couple of the changes that I wanted to make in regards to fees, if what we have written now is indeed fine to add them to the regulations. If we want to change the language I wanted to add for the violations to spell it out, I probably could just add that to the regs as well. And then everything else was just definitions. So I thought we'd take either wait till Springtown meeting or take the full year, and as we're doing these community outreach projects, the Newton Street Festival, see how the projects are going, see if there's anything that's withholding our bylaw from, project that shouldn't be built getting built, or any sort of issues, or take a poll. People think of, should we make them more strict? Do you have any issues with that? Instead of just bringing it forward and getting like backlash from it, I think it might be best to get an idea of what we'd like to do, or I would like to do, and get some community engagement on that, just as we're doing these things before we go out.
Okay.
If I'm going to make the buffer, bigger and stricter, then I think I'd kind of want to get some feedback on it first.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're going to at least discuss what you had here, so you have something to start with?
Yeah,
then?
sure.
Okay.
I also think it'd be good to wait, just if you have more you think you want next year.
That's the other thing too.
Probably better to do bylaw changes like once every 3 years or something.
Yeah, I know. And that's the whole thing. It's like, I get all these ideas in my head, and then I get over zealous, and then I'm like, oh wait, no, I can't do all that.
Then we go, down girl, down.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you guys want to discuss any of the changes, the proposed things that we have from the last time I was here, 2 meetings ago, we can certainly do that, and we can work off of that.
Yes, no?
Pardon?
Yes, no, anybody?
Yes.
Okay. So I know you had asked about this italic section in
Yes.
front and stuff and
Yeah.
things like that. I still think it's worthwhile having in there. It basically just says that we are working in collaboration with other groups and not like just taking a blind eye and like we do what we want to do, so.
Was that under purpose? I don't have my copy with
Right on the
me.
first page, it'd be this whole section.
Yeah, it's
B.
a purpose.
Yeah, that,
You had put it in there when we first put this thing
yeah,
together.
and, now that I look at it, I said I'm fine with ditching it,
Yeah, you did.
but I'm fine with keeping it too.
It was just one of those things that I didn't find in the other 15 towns I looked at, and I was like, I wonder why it's in there. I'm like, I'm sure you, as I said, again, I'm sure you guys put it in there for a reason. I was just like, I hadn't found it anywhere else. So I was like, maybe we don't need it.
I mean,
Just
maybe
quicker,
the front half
shorter.
is understood, but
Yeah.
I like the last statement that says, finally, the commission will work to coordinate policies, regulations, and permitting standards with other town of air bylaws and regulations. So like I said,
Yeah.
just like we're doing with the planning board right now, it's like, well, we're not gonna make a decision until we have an
Yeah.
understanding what the planning board's trying to do, and then, so I think it's beneficial,
Yeah.
you know?
And typically you try to make your bylaws, as quick and short as possible, so then you're not having to go to town meeting anytime something changes. So that's why I was like, maybe we have something we can shorten it up, and then if we want to make anything longer, your regulation, the longest regulations I found were 36 pages, and the shortest bylaw I found was 5, so. So I was just trying to steer us more to that, where we have a more detailed regulation and a smaller bylaw. But again, it doesn't matter to me one bit. It's yours. I'm just here giving my opinion. It's yours. You wrote and worked on. I just came in and read it through and go, that's weird. But you guys have worked on it for a number of months and years, so.
In the red section then that you had?
Yes.
So, in number 1, I think it's just a typo.
Yeah.
It's any creek, not Nay Creek.
Yeah, there was a couple typos in there.
Just check it on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Nay Creek.
next time we edit it, make sure we do get a version off what's on the website.
Yeah, so I had a hard, so when I looked it up and the comments you had, I go, how did I not find that? And I did find it. It was trying to find a Word document that didn't exist.
An editable
I
version.
found an old one and I thought it had all matched and that was the
Okay.
problem.
So I probably have one.
Okay, then that would be
Okay.
helpful if you could send that to me, because there's a lot of things that, working up old ones of regulations, I just don't have,
They have, yeah.
I don't have them on my desktops
Well, they
to
were
work
there,
off
but
of.
probably, I'm not sure what Joanne would have done with
I
those.
searched.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it was-
that's what I mean.
Yeah, so I searched, I couldn't find it, so I think that's what happened if there's things, if there's typos or things missing, it was just the Word doc that I could find. It is in general code in the town's website, in the approved bylaw, the Word doc I found in those things.
Okay.
Because I double checked that, I was like, oh dear, and then I'm like, you make the comment about select board and stuff, I go, no, all of that should have been changed, and it was.
It was.
Yes.
The thing we have to check, and I think we'd have to get a town meeting vote even to change conservation
there.
administrator
It's
to
not in
agent.
there, it's not in there, all it says is commission. There's no reference to a conservation agent in the bylaw.
But I think there is administrator.
Nope,
Really?
nope, everything says commission.
Okay.
I double checked
So we
that as
must
well.
have gotten, okay.
And I think it's probably came back from council, just in case it doesn't, if it just says commission,
Yeah.
I work as part of the commission, as their representative, so it doesn't, I don't think it has to. It might be spelled out in the regulations, it's not in the bylaw. But I double checked that as well, because I was super nervous, and that's when I started thinking, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this, because if I have to go through and read all these and make that in the warrant article, oh, I don't have time to do that.
The number 6,
Yes,
I'm still good with 50 and not going to 100 feet. And then also 50 on vernal pool, not 150 on that.
you stay at 100, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's one of the things I think I want to just try to pull and just get an idea of it too. Because when you look at the vernal pools, typically the only ones we have are already in existing wetlands. So to add that 150 feet might only actually end up being like 25. And the reason for it is all the creatures, the reason for vernal pools, it's a habitat. Nothing's living in that because that vernal pool is now gone, they're all skedaddling away. So when you add that extra buffer, it's giving those creatures more space. I mean, you're talking a salamander.
Skedaddle too.
They find other habitats,
Do they
other
only stay in
streams,
those next
wetlands.
50 feet?
No, that's exactly, they don't. They go 100, 200, 300
They're
feet.
going beyond.
Yeah, so
Does that matter?
if you create a bigger buffer, it gives them more protection.
For that first 50 foot of sprinting.
Like the Hunger Games.
I was gonna say, when I was looking around and
Just-
trying to find things, like,
If they're gonna go up
Yeah.
a tree,
there was
300 feet away,
some other towns
matter.
that did extend it. The town of Sturbridge, which I know is a tiny town, they have a 200-foot buffer on all resources.
But, they probably have a lot more
They have nothing.
undeveloped land.
Yeah. Brookline had 150 on all resources. So it runs the gambit, like Brookline, oh, that's a pretty developed town.
Yeah.
To have that, like, oh, that's kind of crazy. And then Sturbridge, like, there's nothing in Sturbridge. Like, so again, it's like, well, maybe if we do want to do this, that's something where we're like, oh, we should pull, get some feedback from residents before we propose it.
I just remember going in, we all talked about, there's a lot of properties that are pretty small, and
Yeah.
just like our stream coming down to Central Avenue here.
You mean the drainage
really,
ditch?
What's that?
You mean the drainage ditch?
Our stream. I wish I would have saw it on Sunday. Must have been flowing like a.
That was flowing.
Yeah.
But anyways, just that.
Yeah,
there's
no,
a lot of
and-
limitations on
Yeah, and,
certain
and the
people's
more that I
properties.
thought of it, I'm like, yeah, I think I'd be better off just we hold off. I mean, try to get some feedback on some of these before we propose it, because I don't want to come off as everyone just doesn't like me because I'm trying to restrict what they can do on their property, and that's not it at all. I'm just trying to protect what we have that's
get it.
not built on yet.
I think
for
number
flood
8
storage, for habitat, just for that purpose.
Yeah, I think number 8 that has to come out. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's basically everywhere,
Yeah.
right?
What was that one?
Any land subject to storm flowage or flooding by groundwater or surface water.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, Sunday was a perfect example. 1 hour of rain, I still have standing
Yeah, that
water.
actually-
And it was like,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so you would be, limiting my front lawn because it had standing water on it.
Yeah.
So, it just, again, it's just going to come up really bad to people.
Well, as things changed with
Yeah.
rain events, yeah.
It becomes more and more common, and that's the whole point too, is to try to, it's not to affect your existing, it's to keep it from future development. How we have the 50-foot no touch is more or less for existing, and when someone comes in with a already disturbed property and they try to work within that first 50, we're like, yeah, that's fine, like it's already disturbed, that's okay. It'd be similar to that. So, and that's again, because of these issues that we're having. I mean, my poor sister took her an hour and a half to get home from one side of Leominster to the other one on Monday night.
No, and I totally get that,
it's
but
for
what
that
you do is
purpose.
you start to get to the situation where you're putting yourself in a position where somebody can say, well, why did you let them do that? And I couldn't do basically the same thing. In their eyes, it's the same, and then
I
it just
know,
becomes a challenge.
I know. I had the same, I was talking to someone in the building about that too, and I was getting the same comments from them, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, I know what I'm trying to do, and I get how, yeah.
It just becomes
It becomes an issue, I know.
And then basically number 9, same thing. So you were saying to do 200 feet on the riverfront.
Yeah, no, I got the same comment back,
I
I'm
think
like,
we
you
still
can't do
just stay at
that.
50 and.
Well, the riverfront is
it was
200.
200
It was to add perennial and intermittent streams and have them be together, so we were gonna remove the intermittent stream.
Well, I thought this was going to make it, the way I was
Yeah.
reading it is this would now become a resource area, so we would
We already
say
do.
nothing in the first 50.
We already have our
Right.
resource area. So the Riverfront Act is 200 feet. That's standard for perennial streams. That was to add intermittent to it. And under the
But is the
Riverfront Act, it's
200 still, I thought it wasn't 100% no touch though.
in the Riverfront Act, it's 100 foot.
Yeah, and then you have to do the, alternatives analysis. And
Yeah, that's already in there.
Okay.
It's 100 foot in the Riverfront Act. It's a 200 foot buffer.
Okay.
That was only going to add intermittent streams along with perennial. I'm sorry, I wasn't spoke
That
out
would be a
there.
little contentious, I think.
Yeah, it would be.
For
I mean, it's
perennial
a town of
and intermittent,
Lancaster.
okay.
The town of Lancaster has both in theirs.
Okay.
And that's it, another town like ours, which is, I mean, we don't have it as much, but a town on the river.
Yeah, and I think the intermittent, again, like you said, this year we're seeing a
This
lot
year,
more
you're seeing a lot
intermittent.
more. And in my head, I'm like, you're seeing a lot more. So what that would do is that would protect going forward this extra flooding that would occur because you're protecting the work that's being done in that area.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to protect the town from being flooded out in 15, 20 years is how I'm seeing it. The more we can protect, the less work we allow in these buffers around these sensitive areas, the less likely we are to see flooding in the future. And that's how my head reads it. I know how people would read it who have current houses or want to build. They're like, well, now you're telling me what I can't do. It's like, I'm just trying to protect and prepare for future events. These are going to happen. This summer that we had this summer will happen again in 15 to 20 years.
People were complaining bitterly in the Facebook group about, well, some people were, about the detention basin in the inside the circle.
Oh yeah, that
circle
flooded out.
that was flooding out, and it's like, oh, what kind of design is that? And it's like,
No, it was designed.
it was designed, but it was not designed for this level of storm.
Yep.
We don't usually get this level of 4
No, we
inches.
don't.
in
And with
the-
I'm pretty sure that was designed for a 100-year storm.
Yeah.
The storm rain we had was 500 to 1,000. What they had in Leominster was a 500 to 1,000-year storm, like hands down.
Yeah,
What
so
the
it's-
and what the stormwater standards are now are you're seeing 50 to 100. All the older ones were 25,
Yeah.
which is what we have at Ayer Solar 2. That was designed to a 25-year storm. Our new stormwater standards are I think
Yeah.
50 or 100.
But even that,
I mean, even what we had was
standard
still
wouldn't- I know.
was above
People
that.
people don't want to understand that, part of the reason why we want to protect wetlands is during these storm
they're flood
events.
storage.
These are flood storage. That's why you don't fill them in.
That's why we keep the vegetation there. That's why we
Yeah.
don't want to see you take the tree stumps down because all those things still hold
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, and that's going to be more of an issue.
And why we want to plant more vegetation because they take up more water.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm seeing it. So I'm thinking if we did take a year to do this and it can be explained in the course of that year, then maybe it would be better. I don't know. But I 100% agree that there's going to be contention and everyone's going to go, well, what do you mean, what I can't do? And it's not for that. It's more or less to protect new development, new work to be done, and more or less oversight, not to deny it, just to oversee it more.
One of the concerns that was raised when we were going through the bylaw process before was, okay, well, you're a nice board,
Yeah, what about the next
but
one?
what about the next board? Then, you know,
And that's when we
yeah,
try to, we gotta just try to work it out so it is more nailed down and not so loose.
yeah.
I forgot, when we put it together, did we say anything about having differences between new and already disturbed, previously disturbed? Did we define that? I don't think we ended up going that way, did we?
No, but in our regulations, we have that distinction on, between already disturbed for the no disturbed area.
Yeah, it is in the regulations.
Yeah,
Which is how we would probably go along with this, if we were to add any restrictions as far as flood store and that, we would then spell it out further in the regulations that state whatever setbacks we're gonna do, what can and cannot be done in these zones. We can then further describe that. Like the town of Acton, they have 25 no touch, 25, and they spell it out every 25 feet, what you can and cannot do. And it gives you different, so it'd be something similar to that, where we would just, and then more or
I
less.
wouldn't mind taking a spin at that.
Okay.
Let's take a look and see what
Yeah.
that might look like.
Yeah, we can look into doing something like that. That's because, and that's how, and again, my only thought is to just create more undisturbed areas, more protection, more areas for when we have
How much
extreme
more-
rains
How much more
or.
land do we have that's truly can be disturbed?
Exactly.
You know, it's not.
And that's the whole thing, the sooner we do, it's
Although-
just,
one of the things is the land that we do have left for development is the
stuff that has all the issues.
is the stuff that have, yeah, because it's
It
not
has
the
the-
easier land to develop.
It's always what's left,
Yeah.
is your wetland areas and your riverfront areas. And in anticipation to 2033, if area gets Devon's back, we get all our riverfront back.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
All
Yeah, I
that
mean,
poison ivy.
that was really the main thing that was in there.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'll make notes of those and I'll research some more stuff. Like I said, I do want to table it and we
Just
will research it some
get the-
more.
And I'll
Get the more current copy
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we'll go from there then.
Yeah.
And I'll change the draft, the final copy I have to match the structure that they did on the website.
Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to.
Okay.
Because whatever we write and draft,
Yeah.
when it gets uploaded to the general code, they put it in that format, so it doesn't
okay.
matter.
Okay. Yeah, so we're now, bylaw number is now what, 100?
Ours is 300?
300, yeah.
300?
Yeah, because they changed,
They changed
they
the,
upgraded all the,
yeah, when we did the new general code, it changed all the numbers. Yeah, we're 300 and I think stormwater's 249, 245, 245.
yeah.
And it's, yeah.
Well, I think it's a good idea to table.
Oh, thank
I
you.
commend you for your restraint.
Where you're taking a deep breath.
I am, I'm taking a deep breath, and we'll see how busy Springtown meeting is, and we maybe want to squeeze into that, but if it's got a lot of contentious stuff, I don't want to do it in the spring either. It might just be wait till the following fall. And as we see more projects come in, I can see if there's any issues too that come about. And they are
Also-
updating the FEMA maps too, so.
The Springtown meeting not only is busier, but can have more contentious
Yeah, it can.
attendance.
Yep. It sure can.
Okay, I'm gonna leave this go for now.
Okay.
Conservation Office updates?
Okay, so I have quite a few, but I don't want to keep too long. I have my children in the other room.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they're in my office. The missing signs from Flanagan.
there was a new Sandy
Yes,
Pond
so
sign was
what
up.
happened was whoever had stolen them was living in the house, I guess it was across the street from the pond,
In the,
the Sandy Pond.
park-
There was a,
Town Beach?
across from the beach?
yeah, there was I guess there's a house that was, lot was for sale, whatever, tax title, whatever, and when they went in and cleaned it out, they found a whole bunch of stuff.
No.
So Jeff Thomas came by and told me they found the signs in that basement. He hung up the Sandy Pond one, and he's bringing me back the Flanagan.
Which,
So The signs have been found, and they now know who took them, but they no longer live there, so we're fine.
Which house is this?
Whichever was the one that was for tax title.
Is this the one kitty corner?
Yeah,
Oh, that has that big pavement
I
area?
guess so.
Okay.
He explained to me, like, if I know what it was, like, I had no idea,
Okay.
but I would
Yeah, I
assume
know
you
which
guys
one
would
it
know.
is.
But anyway, they found a lot of stuff in there, and our signs were in that.
Did they put those up with tamper-proof?
I don't know what he put it back up with on
So
Sandy
I'll take a
Pond,
sledgehammer over tomorrow
but
and
yeah, you could if you wanted to.
pound those things over?
But in my head, I'm like, well, if we know who took them and they're now gone, I don't think they're gonna get stolen again. But if, yeah. Anyway, so those are done. Those have been found. Sandy Pond's back up. I'm gonna get the Flanagan one, and when I do, I'll let you guys know.
And we were
Yeah,
only
we're gonna have to
missing the
figure
two.
something
Only missing the two signs.
Because the mechanism that it was mounted on before is gone.
Well, maybe they took it with the sign.
Maybe it's with the sign.
Mounting
Maybe.
mechanism?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Jeff said he was able to hang it back. He was able to put it back up.
No, the Sandy Pond one was just right on the post.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The one that John and I put on the Flanagan was like on, what was it, an existing
It was an
road
existing,
sign or something?
yep.
But it was like a round pole,
Yeah.
and there had been some sort of bracket there. We just confiscated the bracket and reused it for the
I mean,
sign.
I'm sure if you went down to Danny, I'm sure he has some anyway too. But
Okay.
Okay.
But
Well,
anyway,
that's a good end to that tale.
Those were good. That was a fun tale. Last Thursday in the extreme heat, I was out doing a shrub identification class.
A what identification?
A shrub identification class.
Okay.
So I now can identify.
Were you
some
bushed
shrubs.
afterward?
It was so hot. It was so hot. Oh, it was awful.
Bushed, it was right
Yeah,
there.
it was right there. It was really interesting and fun. It was apparently vines are considered shrubs, so they're all just woody
Really?
vegetation. So I mean, I learned about Virginia creeper and bittersweet and poison ivy and buckthorn and sumac and a bunch of other ones that I can now identify, which is kind of fun. So I'm going to take some of that stuff I learned from that one and the tree class I took last year, and I have touring with a couple ideas for the Newton Street Festival that we will have a table at on October, is it 7th? That first Saturday, I think it's the 7th. And trying to figure out what I'm going to do, the 7th, what we're going to do for that, because the Conservation Commission will have a table up on that.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of trying to see if I could get some, if I could find some still alive, pretty green shrubs, and I ordered some identification books from the bibliography from those two classes, and a lens to try to see if I can get some kids to like look at some neat things under that lens and try to help them so they can learn to identify some of their own shrubs and trees in their backyard and some of the neat things about them, or looking at maybe possibly the ideas about water flow and how that works, the whole water cycle, and how it's important to make sure we're not dumping things and doing stuff in our yards. Just toying around with some things, ideas on that. If anybody has any that they want to shoot over to me, I will
Yeah.
gladly take them.
If I found an somebody in the next door site posted an article, informational article on these snake worms.
Oh yes, your snake worms.
If I got that printed out,
Yeah, I wanted to try to go and get over the next week or two some presentation boards.
Yeah.
So depending on how big the table is, I could have one on invasive species, trees, bugs, worms, and another one on either native or something like that, and they can look at the difference between the two of those along with the identifications.
So you're wondering what snake worms are? Did I show you? I showed you.
Jumping worms or?
Yeah, the Alabama jumping worms.
The Alabama jumping worms, snake worms, Asian jumping worms. They've been in the country since about the 1930s. They're invasive. They've moved up into our area.
Yeah, they move in
And
mulch and
They move in
topsoil and stuff.
mulch and stuff. And what they do is they eat the nutrients in the top of the soil and the top inch or so of soil.
the organic layer.
And so they deplete the soil, whereas our regular earthworms, who were invasive back in 1600, they enrich the soil. These don't. So it depletes the soil, turns it to the consistency of coffee grounds, and encourages erosion. And I've only seen 2 isolated ones in Ayer, but I was over in conservation land in Harvard last weekend, and I was horrified because after we had that heavy rain and where sheet flows down this one side of the trail, builds up big clumps of leaves, and I tend to clear paths, so cleared away the first one with my little walking stick, and it was this was what was under them.
You showed me that.
I showed you. So, okay, ready? Whoops. Nope, that didn't do it.
Yeah, it's,
Get the right thing now.
so if you go to the UMass Extension
Okay.
to their website and you search the jumping worms, you can read all about them.
Yeah.
And what the UMass Extension says is they're different from the native ones we have here is they never feel full. So they just keep eating because they jump around so much, they need so much more energy and more food, so they just keep eating the soil. And
Yeah.
that's the part of the difference too, is
Yeah.
because they move and thrash around so much, they need
Yeah,
so
so
much more
check out at the very beginning where they
so
were
much more energy.
primary thrashing.
It's pretty wild. So
And every clump after that had them.
And as far as the state, I looked at the state's website.
Yeah.
If you search jumping worms, or it doesn't come up. I could only find information
Yeah.
on the federal, the USDA, U.S. Forestry, I think, and UMass Extension. Nothing from
Yeah.
the state. So I don't think they're recognizing them as a threat that we need to like isolate. And it's one of those things like we can't contain it because they are being transported through mulch, through topsoil.
Yeah, and they're here.
And it's
And they
just-
breed fast.
so it's just one of those things. You just got to be careful.
I screwed up. I'm trying to replay it.
Okay.
No, I've been over to Bonnie's house a couple times, and she's been trying to show me some sort of gray worms, and she says they
Okay.
jump a lot.
That's
They look
the-
nothing like these, though.
No, they're probably something different.
Okay, so just go that way one, and you'll catch the beginning of the... And that was after they'd already been jumping around
If
for...
anybody has any
few
other
seconds.
ideas for the
Yeah.
Newton Street Festival, that was what I was going to go with. And part of this came from Sam that works upstairs, is because I have taken all my, lemon seeds and avocado pits and I've grown
Yeah.
them from seed, and now I have trees growing in my house. And she goes, it'd be neat to show kids how you can do that. So that's one of the things too, just to do, the trees in your backyard, is how you identify them and look what you can do in your own yard.
Yeah.
And I have an avocado tree that's only a year old, that's about a foot tall.
The reason I'd like to include something on the snake worms
Yes.
is, I know some people said, oh, they'd be like night crawlers, good fishing bait. And that's a really excellent way to start spreading them. Because when you fragment them, they keep,
They'll be split in half.
they split in half. So this is not something we want people to be fishing with either. So, or it would be good to give information to
We
people.
can definitely start doing, I can do one whole presentation board on just different invasives and facts and
eat
pictures
them.
of them.
That'd be good.
Yeah, but how many fishermen can you count on that their fish, all their worms will get eaten by fish? There's also a lot of people who say the chickens spit these out. They don't like them.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they're too squiggly?
Something. They're not like your regular worms.
But yeah, we could definitely do that. I can do one on native and one on invasives, and we can kind of just,
Yeah.
people can identify them.
Yeah.
It would be good to show, like, that worm
Yeah,
compared to the right
regular
worm.
worm, yeah.
Because I look at that and
It looks
like
exactly-
another one, except for
it's-
the squiggliness.
Right.
But like I said, Bonnie was saying, well, they're like more gray. She's trying to show me, and it's like a regular worm to me.
Yeah, so then we can definitely do that. That's a good idea. We'll do something on that, and I think that's good.
I didn't realize the other worms had been invasive.
In the 1600s.
Horses are. I mean, certain breeds of horses are, chickens. I mean, none of this stuff was here.
Yeah.
I never thought about worms.
European honeybee.
Yeah. I mean, swans.
Yeah.
Swans aren't native to here. Those are a non-native species.
Well,
But every time you see a swan, I'm like, I see one on Flanagan Pond, I see one on the Nasher River, I'm like, oh, look, swans. But they're not native.
not everything, completely destroys.
Yeah, not
habitat.
everything that's non-native
They
destroys
change.
things. There
Yeah.
are the bad ones, and those are the
But
ones
the-
we need to keep an eye out for.
But these will harm forest floors. This one article I read, which I'll get to you,
Okay.
described it as, I can't remember the
Because I can make like a little sheet of like for more information and just
Yeah.
have some of the articles.
links, but it was It was a great image, and I now can't remember
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I can start working on that. We have, with the Pine Meadow, I had been trying to look up, I know there's a new email if anyone had seen it. I got
Yeah.
a brochure from one company that had a bunch of trail signs. I know, George, you had sent me one. I'm gonna start looking into other ones to try to figure out how we're gonna do the trail markers out there. Some of the companies have some really nice, and I said, George had, and I was thinking, oh, it'd be really good if we could get some of these on like the ponds in town too. Or the actually just like basically a presentation board that's like woodland birds, and it shows you them all, and I just stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that'd be really nice if we could get like whatever money for it to put some of those out at Pine Meadow along with the trail markers. There's one. It is essentially a square post, plastic post, so you can have one side read that you're going this way, another side reads you're going that way. I'm like, oh, those would be good to have at the actual at the beginning of the trail intersections. So I started researching those. I'm going to do some more and try to get prices on those. And I did send an email out. And fortunately, the email integration new one, I lost some of the contacts. I did email everybody that I had that I could find for their email for the Pine Meadow to try to set up another meeting on that. Now that it is cooling off and hopefully not as buggy in the next few weeks, so we can go out and do that. And I can print off some of these signs and get everyone's opinion on those. So we've been doing that.
And you got the email that I had forwarded you on from Lydell.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm
about
gonna
possibly needing the signs.
Yeah,
but-
which we don't need now, but I am going to email her in regards to if they
What
have
other
a standard
stuff?
sign for a parking to identify the parking at across the street from Pine Meadow, along with a no dumping sign.
Yeah.
Because people do dump, but it doesn't mean. I mean, I can still put a sign up. Maybe it wouldn't discourage anybody, but I could still try.
But even like whatever you're seeing for trail markers,
Yeah.
you know, if
Yeah,
it's,
wonder
if
if I
it's
get
just an aluminum
blazes.
sign, just say,
Yeah.
you know, hey,
Yeah, I'm gonna
what's the
reach out
smallest
to
sign you
her.
can make? Is it any color? Like, you know,
Yeah, I'll
what
reach out.
might they have from a catalog perspective that
Yeah, I'll
could,
reach
you know,
out.
might be used for something else, but we could easily use it for what we want.
Yeah, I'll reach out to them too. Thank you. And I'm going to reach out to Dan. I meant to email him earlier because they do have the plaques for the rain gardens. And I'm going to see who they used for that and see if they have what they do. So as well, but just see we're working on that.
Can you just reiterate what was? I didn't take notes before when you mentioned you'd given a violation notice to Solar.
Oh yeah,
Till.
no. So I was going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So just one more thing before that. So I did Tuesday night did a baseline document CR training again. I did it when I first started. I did it again this past week. That MACC did, and it did go through some of the items as far as how to do a baseline. And thinking, I'm like, oh, I can do this. No, I cannot. I just read it. The fact I can't do a baseline. Which is fine. It's okay. I don't need to do that. But it just rejuvenate the ideas of what we need to do, get a better idea if we are to go forward with another contract with another organization or with North County, and now have a better idea of how we need to spell out this contract and make it more specific. So that was helpful on that front. In November, they will have another one for just monitoring, and I did that one again last year. I'll do it again this year. For me, taking these things twice usually makes it stick a little bit better. It's a lot of information you get in 2 hours. So I will be doing that again in November.
You were going to email Robert about if he made any phone
I
calls.
haven't got a response.
Oh, you.
I did have a meeting with him last week.
Okay.
He did send an email if he hadn't heard yet. I'm meeting with him again next week with Dan to discuss beavers and stormwater. I will ask him about it again.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then just lastly, the Air Solar 2 update. So on the 30th, I sent Rohit an email in regards to the stream crossing. So what day was that? Yeah. When they installed the outlet of the stream crossing, it was not to plan. They actually just piled up. They cleaned out the inside. They did the inlet fine. They put the river rock down. They changed the riprap rock. On the outlet side, they had the river rock. They had the the riprap rock, the bigger rock, but they made a mound at the outlet instead of having it all at grade and opening it out to like a Y. It was essentially a giant N that was filled in about a foot to 2 of rocks. It was it's basically blocking the flow. I emailed Rahit and told him that he needed to build it to plan and change it. Didn't get a response. Went out the following week. It washed out from the heavy rain that week. Email again, you need to clean it up. Heard back from him on Tuesday of this week. Went out yesterday and it had gone through the silt fence.
Had gone through what?
The silt fence.
Oh, yeah.
The rock had gone through the silt fence.
Okay.
So I did send him another email saying that I was going to attach a letter, and the letter expresses the violations that had occurred on site, saying it had to be, that we were having, as I was writing it, it was raining, and that he needed to have it cleaned up. After yesterday, the weather looks good. We are watching a hurricane. It'd be in his best interest to fix it before Saturday. I will be going out again on Monday to verify that nothing happened from said. I don't know if it's going to rain on Saturday. I don't think any of us know it's going to rain on Saturday until Saturday comes. To take a look at it on Monday, and it needed to be fixed by Wednesday when we go back out on site to keep from any further action from the Conservation Commission.
So Wednesday, the 20th,
Yep.
and any further.
I
So-
did get a response from him, and it was more or less, I sent him a, 2-page letter and a 1-page, half a page email in regards to what he needed to do, and I got a two-sentence response. I basically told him, I know he doesn't live around here, that it's as the contractor and the owner on site, he needs to be aware of what the weather's doing in his own best interest to keep from anything from happening, and just doesn't listen. So it's fine.
So there was a big pile of rock.
It was a big pile of rock.
And that should not have been there.
No, it was all supposed to be, so according to the plan, which is was my big concern to the planning board, to us, that we needed to make sure the stream crossing met standards and was correct. And according to the plan, it was supposed to have a 3 to 6 foot plunge pool at the outlet, so the water could pool at the out, and then just flow out as if it did, just kind of like leach out to the wetland. And in regards to that, so the rock was supposed to make like a Y with that plunge pool in the center. And what they essentially built was a narrow N built up with rock.
And that blew out.
And that blew out within a week.
And that was all rock.
And then this last week with the heavier rain from Monday and Sunday, it had washed out and gone through the erosion controls.
So first it had blown
Rock,
out.
which I did Google what sediment is, and when you Google it, it shows rock, so it counts.
So first it blew out, and then we got like the 4 inches on Sunday, then it blew out more and washed through the...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he had gotten notice 3 separate times, 2 times before it had gone through the silt fence with nothing done. So if it's not done by Wednesday, I strongly encourage a cease and desist and fines.
And the plunge pool is constructed how?
The plunge pool, I'm assuming, is just, not asking me if they do everything by hand tools, is basically, it is filled with rock, but what it does is it allows the water to pool and then like leach out, instead of creating this, because it wasn't really a stream to begin with, right? The whole thing was, it was just an outlet of storm drains from Madigan Lane that just flowed into wetlands, which is what you do with lawn runoff, right? So when they put the road in, they ended up channeling it. So it made this stream, essentially. So that's why I think that plunge pool is designed, just so it would allow it to then just pile in there and then still continue to leach out in heavier rains, as if like we've been having. But because it was built up, when those heavy rains came through, it came through that culvert so fast, which luckily it didn't move really hardly any of the rock inside, which I was surprised. It did cause a little bit of channeling 2 weeks when we were out last week. When we were out this week, I think the heavier rain again just put it all back and kind of evened it out. I was like, oh, that was good, because a week ago it was favoring the right side again, like it always had been, because it doesn't always seem to, I don't know why, But then with the heavier rain, it seemed to kind of just even it out, and it was going through to the right and through the middle. I was like, oh, okay, well, that worked. That's good.
Yeah.
It'll seem to just keep going back and forth like that, I guess, that's fine.
I mean,
It was-
based on the rain that we had, though, would the plunge pool have even done anything, honestly? Would it have just blown right across in it?
You know, without it being there, I can't tell you. I can tell you what happened. I can't tell you what it would have done. It was designed that way, obviously, for a reason,
Yeah.
and it wasn't built to a plan that we had just asked
Still.
for. It was just approved in July.
So, just because I want to have this detail ready.
Yeah.
So, first there was the mound there. You
Yeah.
sent a notice about that.
I sent an email to him about that, saying that it appeared that I sent pictures, and said it appeared
Okay.
that the outlet had not been built to according to plan, and it should be
Right.
changed to keep from any breakout from occurring, and then it did.
And then it washed out and you sent a notice then?
Yep, so it.
And then it
they
was
built
still
it like
not
this.
fixed?
Yeah, they built it like this,
Yeah.
just so you can see. This is the riprap rock, this is the river rock, and that's how they built it. It was supposed to be designed like that, with the plunge pool in here.
So, okay, here's the outlet. Okay, but they instead, and this was
Yeah.
the mound in
Yeah,
there?
this is the whole mound right here, this is all mound,
Okay.
and it was supposed to be an open.
Okay,
like,
so
water.
then you sent the second notice that it was
After
washed out.
it had washed out, so they needed to
And then-
correct it.
And then they didn't correct.
I got
and
an
then your
email
third
back.
notice
I got
is
an
the
email back
violation.
6 days later saying Sydney, the gentleman that working with Sydney Landscaping, was out of the country, but they'll get going on it. And then the next day I gone out and it had already washed out.
Okay, and then since then, we had the even heavier rain, so it went through the,
Yeah.
okay, so your third notice was after that?
Yes, and
seven.
in the
Okay.
third notice, I did note that I emailed him on the 30th, on this, whatever the next Wednesday was, with no response until, so I emailed him on the 30th, I emailed him on the 6th, I got a response back on, and I didn't get any response until the 12th, and then I emailed him on the 13th with the washouts, and I did note all that in the notice, that I did email him and notify him of the concerns on site a number of times with no response.
Yep.
Okay. very good.
Okay, so that's that.
That's all your updates?
That's all my updates.
Anyone else have some?
Want to hear any more on snake worms?
No.
I just have one thing. We're down at the end of Taft Street.
Which is where?
We had, like, what's Nashua Extension, like, that's where Jen lives, right?
Yeah.
So, you know that, like, remember that one corner abandoned property across the street from the owner?
Yep,
He was,
Big red maple and,
Yep.
Japanese maple in the middle?
yeah.
Weren't they supposed to put rocks and stuff in there so that they can't cut the lawn? Because the lawn's been cut a lot, and like, I thought that's
I
what
thought
was
they were
supposed to
supposed to
have
put
happened.
boulders.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
All right,
them from getting
I'll
through.
double check that enforcement and
Okay.
get a hold of them if it is indeed, and take a look at it, so.
Yeah, that was
If you could.
before your time.
I know, but I got a call from someone saying they went through and cut stuff, and there was a tree that fell, and he asked if he could clean it up, and I don't think they ever did.
Yeah, there was a tree like back behind the Japanese maple.
Yeah.
Yep, understood.
Yeah,
But
he
the
was supposed to
front
clean that
lawn
up,
is
and he
still
never
being
did.
cut though, because it's
Okay.
pretty well manicured. And I thought that was the whole idea behind the boulders, is so
Yeah.
that they could not get in there and cut it.
Right.
Yeah, I will,
Good memory.
I will pull that and take a look at it and get
Okay,
a hold of
thank
them.
you.
You're welcome.
What happened with the trees that went into?
The pond?
Yeah.
Oh, they were the sweetest people.
Oh, you seemed very.
So I went out the next day. They were slowly trying to pull them out. I said, "That's fine. I wanted to make sure they weren't causing any erosion doing it, and they weren't." I spoke to his wife for, I was there probably a half hour. Oh, she was so nice, and she's telling me all these things that they want to do. And I said, "Oh, that's fine. You just have to, pull the proper permits, and we can either do it all on one, or if you want to do a little at a time, we can do multiple ones." Yeah, she gave me a whole tour of the house. No, they were very nice. It was just one of those things. So no, they have a full understanding. They were pulling everything out slowly, which again is fine. I just don't want to see it start decaying. Except I wanted to make sure they weren't. But no, they were working on pulling everything out. I think the last time I just drove by that way today to go look at Bake Joy. They have might be coming to us with a RDA or NOI for expanding their parking lot, and filling in part of the parking lot. But anyway, and I looked across the pond, I couldn't see them anymore, so I think they pulled it all out.
Got it all.
Nice.
But they were very nice. They're a very
Oh,
nice
yeah.
couple. They were sweet as could be. So I know it was just one of those things where they just didn't know,
Yep.
and it felt like they didn't expect it to. So
As trees do.
I think I mentioned this a while back, but we have a bunch of little trail marker signs, the round
Yes.
disc with arrow on it. I have them in my garage.
okay, awesome.
Was a Sandy Pond sign in your garage too?
Maybe that's where they
The same
initially
thing.
were. George.
Oh, and just so we're working with Sugar Mill Pond to get that CR completed. I haven't heard anything for Panther Place, nor Air Solar 2, but we are actively trying to work to get all those CRs finished up and completed.
Great. How about you, Jess? You got anything?
Snake worms, no. I'm good.
I did see a sign over, well, like we're just where they were talking about the Zero Nimco Way. So it looks like the old, again, as we were saying, what, LG Electronics or whatever, like Catania's moving into that building back in there.
Are they?
Oh, is that? No kidding.
I think that's where they're expanding to.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
They're really doing well.
yeah, they're getting big. They're getting quite big.
Anything else?
If anybody says anything else, I'm gonna have to go onto a new clean sheet of paper. Bad for trees.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes unanimously.
Our next meeting is September 28th.